How to end suffering. In order to understand how to end suffering, we need to first ask, what is suffering? Suffering is a state of being in pain, hardship, or distress. To be human is to suffer. It is a universal experience, and nobody escapes this in their lifetime. The next question to ask is, what is the end goal when you suffer? The answer is simple: to end the suffering. You can visualize it as a flowchart. When one suffers, their ultimate aim or goal is to end the suffering. There are three pathways to achieving this goal: two negative and one positive. Calling it negative or positive is not a judgment attachment, but an objective evaluation of whether the goal is reached or not, whereby the negative pathways may not necessarily lead to the goal, but the positive pathway does. The first pathway is what a person decides to take at the individual level, also known as suicide. When suffering becomes unbearable, the person may give up on life and take the step to self-annihilate. However, does this solve the problem of suffering? Has the person ended the suffering? No. The end of life does not guarantee the end of suffering. Instead, it could lead to greater suffering, as the individual may have scarred or left their loved ones with a deep sense of guilt, grief, or sadness for the rest of their lives. The second pathway is what is chosen at the collective level and is also known as nihilism. This category may include suicide bombers, terrorists, perpetrators of school shootouts, and mostly people who subscribe to a psychopathological belief system, akin to the biblical story of Cain and Abel, where Cain-like thinking makes the individual place oneself in the shoes of a victim and believe that the world is a meaningless and unfair place to be in, and that life or one's existence is so pathetic that if they are going down, they are taking the world down with them. Sometimes people who choose this path target the sweetest, most innocent thing just to spite at life and prove how pathetic existence is. However, does this solve the problem of suffering? Has suffering ended? No. In fact, this pathway leads to greater suffering, as the perpetrator has unleashed a potentially traumatizing event in the lives of many, who may carry the pain of loss for the rest of their lives. Finally, we have the third pathway, the positive pathway, also known as the pathway of transformation. This is positive because it assures the end of suffering. The pathway of transformation is akin to Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, or the hero's myth, whereby the hero gathers up enough courage to journey to the underworld of chaos or lack of order, face the supreme ordeal head-on, and overcome the very element that induced the suffering, only to find oneself reborn again. It is the pathway of resurrection that helps one end suffering. It is the courage to face the dragon of chaos that leads to the end of suffering. It is the courage and the bravery that a person has to overcome one's challenges. Let's take a simple example. A person who has a phobia of snakes might find the end to this discomfort by confronting a real-life snake until the fear evaporates, and the person successfully survives this ordeal. Then the person finds oneself transformed and evolved to a better, less fearful version of oneself. Does this pathway solve the problem of suffering? Has suffering ended? Yes. Remember, many elements of life lead to suffering. Choosing the pathway of transformation is what helps end suffering that is induced by that specific element. That's all, folks. Hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed it, do give it a thumbs up. Leave any comments or questions below, and please subscribe to my channel for more invigorating videos. Thank you.